COVID-19, there are very few positive things that happened during the pandemic, unless you count testing COVID positive as positive. However, one of the literally positive things that happened during the pandemic is that a large number of people utilized the lockdown and the quarantine period to learn new skills and complete new courses, in short, upskill themselves. Education, according to our next speaker, is the best gift that you can give to anyone in the world. Coming from a humble background with both parents being semi-literates, he was the first graduate in his family thanks to his innate aptitude to absorb information swiftly and his drive to pursue excellence at any cost. He is also qualified as a chartered accountant and cost accountant from India and CPA, CIA and CMA from the United States. With a global corporate career that spans more than 33 years, he was the head of multi-continental operations at a huge multinational conglomerate until recently. He was also one of the founding members of Grey Matter Academy. Recently, he decided to take a full-time plunge in guiding and transforming the lives of those who dream of making it big from their humble backgrounds. This noble thought inspired him to establish a training academy in Chennai, Tamil Nadu. Thus was born Finspire Academy, one of India's leading US CPA and US CMA training institutions. He has always believed that education is not just the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. He has always strived and implemented this aspect throughout his training and mentoring career that spans more than 2 decades. Today, he is here to speak to us from the accounting and financial spectrum and to throw some light on how to upskill ourselves by obtaining global certifications and increasing our career prospects across the globe in this highly competitive field. A fairly long intro, but mere words do not do justice to this man. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our guest speaker, Toastmaster Ganesh Vaideeswaran. His topic is Upskilling with Global Qualifications in Accounting and Finance. Over to you, Toastmaster Ganesh.
Thank you so much, Taslina. That was a very generous introduction. I'm not sure whether I would deserve that, but anyway, thank you so much for it. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, I guess, because there are people from the various time zones available here. I remember the date very clearly. It was the 27th of August, 1999, when I was in the Sultanate of Oman. I was working there, and it's a Friday. You can go and check your calendar, the 27th of August, 1999. You know what happens when you are in the Middle East? There are, investment seminars that take place, like people come and then, like they talk about investment options basically. And then, like they would want to lure you for that. Taslina, I need to be sharing my screen right here. Taslina?
Yes, you can share it. You can share it.
Okay. Yes. My apologies for that, because I thought, that would be. So 27th of August, I go to this typical investment seminar, an hour and a half of presentation. At the end of it, I felt convinced, and they were talking about a $10,000 investment at that particular point of time. $10,000 at that time was huge, considering I was about 33 years old then, and then, like my earnings were not that much, but I still decided to take the plunge and decided to invest $10,000 in 1999. Can you believe the returns I had got? That was one of the best decisions I had taken, I guess, at that particular point of time. Today, it's about 23 years. A $10,000 investment in 1999 has yielded a return of more than a few $1 million. You have heard it right, few $1 million, and I'm still counting. Imagine a $10,000 investment yielding more than $1 million and still going on. You must be wondering that I must be an investment wizard. Absolutely not. I'm a big zero with respect to when it comes to investments. But believe me, such an investment at that particular point of time, either in real estate or in share market, would not have yielded so much results. So what do you think I would have invested in? From that particular point of time, believe me, I have always believed the best investment you can ever make is in you. Yes, you got it right. I had invested in myself, which a lot of people today are not wanting to do it, because of which they are not able to reach where they would want to. What did I do? And what was the investment proposition we were talking about? There was a seminar on the CPA of the USA, and then I decided that I should be doing my US CPA. And then, as they say, the rest is history, basically. The population of the world today.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
I think the slides are not shared. If you wish to share now, you can share. Otherwise, we have slides. So
it's not
as
done,
your advice, we can.
Just a moment.
The sharing is not done. It's not visible.
Yeah, one moment, please.
Yes, it's coming now. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, it's visible now, sir.
Sincere apologies for this. I'm sorry. Sometimes this technology beats me. So that is what it. So what I had done is, they had come over to talk about the US CPA that day, and I had decided to take the plunge at that particular point of time. And that is something which had yielded results multiple number of times, more than 300x I'm talking about. Yes. So I find a lot of people today not wanting to invest in self. And then, as they say, if you don't believe in yourself, I don't know who's going to believe in yours. Now, the population in this world I was talking about today is about 8.3 billion. Now, one thing that is common across all this 8.3 billion people is, rather two things I would say is, all of them would want to be successful in their life and happy in their life. They are all different in multiple ways, but on these two counts, all 8.3 billion people would be the same. There is nobody who would say, I do not want to be successful in my life, and I do not want to be happy in my life. So these are two common things which everybody would want to be. Now, what is success? Success is a very relative term, because what is success for one person may not be success for the other, because his yardstick for measuring success could be different. Despite all that, if there is one common definition that we can talk about what is success, it would be, success is getting what you want. So this would be a very generic definition of success, but would meet all requirements. So I would like to define success as success is getting what you want. But the most important question here is, are we prepared to pay the price for success? Because please understand, there is nothing called free lunch in this world, and one has to pay the price for it. In fact, I generally say, you are prepared to pay 1 rupee, you get an eclair. You are prepared to pay 5 rupees, you get a 5-star, and you are prepared to pay 500, you get a Ferrero Rocher. The point here to be understood is, we can never get a Ferrero Rocher for 1 rupee, so we need to pay the price for it. So success is getting what you want. And what is happiness? Happiness is wanting what you get, they say. Now, when I got to know this term for the first time, wanting what you get, I could relate it to the contentment factor. And I am someone who has always believed that if you are contented, you may not want to push the envelope further and grow further in life. A few years back, I was, I happened to make a presentation in one of the leading US universities. And at that time, I was talking to the professor in charge, and I was asking him about this, how can we say that wanting what you get is going to take you towards success? He gave me a very interesting interpretation. He said, it's not like that, Ganesh. A person who's contented is happy. And when a person is happy, he's in a very peaceful state of mind. And when somebody has a peaceful state of mind, they are able to think clearly so that he can chart his way towards success. That was a real eye-opener, I should say, because that is when I realized that contentment does not stifle success, and on the contrary, it enables you to move towards success. So this is what was the scenario. Now, having realized and understood that all of us would want to be successful and happiness, what is the global scenario today? There are a lot of things happening across the globe that things what was relevant a few years back is no longer relevant today. So the global scenario is undergoing a major change. And what triggered this major change? The first thing or the first factor that triggered this change is the internet revolution. The internet revolution has changed totally the way in which we lead our lives today. The entire world has come into our palms today. The entire world has become one marketplace. So in this revised scenario, what was relevant a few years back, like having geographical boundaries, is totally gone. The entire world is one marketplace. So what was the outcome of the internet revolution? The globalization started evolving. You know, with the entire world becoming one market, multinational companies started moving into places where they thought there was a potential for their products. And that is the reason why today India is the most sought after country with respect to investments from multinational companies. The globalization started happening. Then what was the result of this globalization we are talking about? The e-commerce boom. Gone are the days when, you know, we had to go to a shop to get something. We can do it sitting in your room in one corner and then ordering something from Amazon.com, which probably the supplier would be tens and thousands of miles away. The e-commerce boom came up. Along with that, opportunities came up in a big way, and so were the competition. Today, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, we are living in a world where opportunities are plenty. If you look at about 20 years back or even 10 years back, capital was the biggest constraint for anyone wanting to start new. Today, that is not there. You have a good idea. There are people who are willing to dump in billions and billions for that particular idea. That is how Ola, Swiggy in India, companies started coming up with incredible valuation. In fact, I would even go to the extent of saying crazy valuations. So the huge opportunities have come up. And if only I could have turned the clock back, I would have probably loved to be born about 20, 25 years later, so that, you know, like things are extremely good for people today. But at the same time, the competition is also extremely high. Now imagine a situation, the entire world has become one marketplace. The e-commerce boom has taken place. There are tremendous opportunities that are available. To top it, COVID had come out with a new eye-opener, which was work from home. We had never realized until 2 years back that work from home was a possibility. If somebody had suggested that you can complete a major part of your work sitting at home, we would have scorned at them and said that is not possible. But today, that has become a reality. If you look at it, US generally has been the trendsetter in this. And today, if you look at the US, 70% to 80% of the work is being done by people sitting at home. Now, what has this got to do with the competition we are talking about? Earlier, if we had to go and work in an organization, you had to probably be in the same location physically or probably move to that location to work. But today, you please understand, you can sit in the US and still work for a company in India, provided you are capable of delivering what the organization wants. So with a lot of opportunities, this competition has come up. So today, as a prospective employee, I am not just competing with people who are in my location or my state or my country, but it has become global. I have a potential competitor sitting thousands of miles away for a job in my location. So this is what is happening today. But one thing we will have to understand very clearly, apart from this big changes that is happening, the biggest threat today to human beings is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is posing a great threat to natural intelligence. NI is natural intelligence. So we need to understand that this is becoming a real threat. In fact, people are saying 40% of the jobs that are relevant today will become redundant in 10 years' time. We are sitting on a time bomb. We need to understand. If you remember a simple example of how artificial intelligence is challenging natural intelligence is a few years back when these smartphones were not there. I mean, like I used to remember almost every telephone number that I used to come across, like, at least about 100, 200 telephone numbers I used to remember. But today, believe me, I'm not even able to remember my wife's telephone number because we have become slaves to that gadget in hand. In fact, I'll recount a very interesting incident. DTM Kumar and I used to work together in Oman. On a particular time, I had traveled to Oman and he was dropping me in the airport. When he dropped me in the airport, by mistake, I had left my mobile behind in Kumar's car and then he had left. I didn't know who to contact or how to contact because I didn't remember the mobile numbers. You know what happened? I had to call up my wife in India and she had to call up a friend who had Kumar's number and that person had to call up Kumar in Oman and then Kumar had to come back. We have become slaves to that. Artificial intelligence is posing a big threat today. With so much the global scenario changing, what is happening to the finance profession? You must be wondering, like I'm supposed to be talking about finance and accounting, but why have I not come to that at all? The landscape in finance and accounting is undergoing a major change. It is extremely important for us to understand. Why am I talking about accounting and finance only? It is redefining the way the entire business is being done. But since, like my domain is going to be accounting and finance, I'm going to focus on that. We all know finance is the lifeline of any organization. So how is it that it's undergoing the change we are talking about? First, the major thing is there is nothing local anymore. Everything is global. You do not look at, when you're starting a business today, you just do not look at one particular or small location when you're starting it. Your plans are always big today because everything is global. The accountants are no longer perceived as bookkeepers. Of course, this particular change had happened quite some time back, but today it is all the more prominent. A 10,000 rupee software like the Tally will ensure that you don't need to worry. Bookkeeping is not what is expected out of a finance professional today. It's much more than that. The finance centers are no longer viewed as cost centers. They are viewed as profit centers. How does this happen? Because finance generally is supposed to be only a cost center. What is happening today is, with so much competition in the business today, it is the question of survival of the fittest. So companies which are very good in all aspects are the only one who survive and who grow. So what is happening in these companies is revenues, they have understood that revenues can be made in two ways. One is improving your sales and the other one is reducing your costs. So what happens essentially is the marketing department takes care of improving the revenues, whereas the finance departments are looking at how to reduce costs so that your bottom line goes up. The skill sets expected out of a finance professional is totally different from what was some time back. There are much more. That is the precise reason you look at any board of directors today, any companies, there are finance professionals. Until some time back, it was the marketing people who are heading companies. But today you find a lot of people taking over that position because, like they would want, like companies have realized that finance, if properly managed, a company would be successful. So the skill sets that are expected are totally different from what it was. So today, the requirement is not any finance professional, but global finance professionals, which is what is very important today. So what are the companies expecting? They want their finance professionals to be global finance professionals and not local professionals. Now, what are all the skill sets that are required for the future with respect to a finance professional? We all need to understand that this is a race today. The survival of the fittest would mean that the faster you run, the better you are if you are better prepared. So what is the first set of skill sets that are required for a finance professional? Continuous learning. A proper domain knowledge and continuous learning is extremely important today. Now imagine a scenario. I had passed my CA and ICAA in 87, which is about 35 years back. During that particular time frame, it was sufficient if you are qualified as a chartered accountant or a cost accountant so that the rest of your life can be taken care of. Excuse me. But today, the environment in which the companies are operating are extremely dynamic. So unless you ensure that you continuously learn, it becomes extremely difficult for you to grow, because we wanted to be successful. That is what we had seen. So proper domain knowledge and continuous learning is the first basic requirement. Is that sufficient? No. What is the next skill set that is required? Communication and adaptability. It is extremely important that a finance professional is able to communicate properly because he is going higher up in the level. One major drawback that is always held against a finance professional is that they are not able to communicate properly. This is where the marketing guys and the IIM people were scoring over the hardcore finance professionals, but now that is changing. You need to be very good in communicating so that, and be adaptable also, so that you are able to be successful. The next skill set that people are looking at is great initiative and problem solving. A finance professional today should not just be sticking to his accounting, bookkeeping, and other finance related stuff, but should be taking that extra step to initiative to ensure that he is seen as a problem solver and a solution provider and not anything else. So it is extremely important that you have great initiative and you are seen as a problem solver. When you are seen as a problem solver, what is the outcome of that? The outcome of that is you should be able to collaborate with your peers and then take a leadership position. This is an important skill set. But the most important skill set is work ethics and professionalism, because finance people are dealing with money. The outlook is finance profession. Of course, work ethics and professionalism are important for all departments, but I'm trying to focus with respect to the finance professionals specifically, because this is totally different from the skill sets that were required a decade or a couple back. Now, in this scenario, the dynamic scenario, what we are talking about, what are we supposed to do and what are we doing actually speaking? What we are doing today is we spend more time in planning our vacation than planning our career. That is the most unfortunate thing, but a majority of us, we do not plan our career because we need to be, like today in the dynamic scenario, we need to be aware of what is happening and ensure that we are prepared for that if we are to be successful in life. Now, what do you think are the certifications that would be ideal? I said continuous learning. The learning should never stop. What do you think from a working scenario perspective? What do you think should be an ideal certification for an aspiring professional or a professional who wants to upskill himself? Because we are working today and we have a family and other responsibilities, the first and foremost requirement for an ideal certification is it must be short term. We cannot be looking at, like a 2-year program or a 3-year program, which is going to put in more pressure because sustenance becomes a challenge. As a matter of fact, the 27th of August, 1999, the first factor that pushed me to do my CPA was when the presenter said, you can complete your CPA in about 9 to 12 months time. At this stage, let us remember, short races are always better than a marathon because we have other commitments. So short term is one very important thing. And we are typical human beings. We would want to put 1 rupee and take 100 rupees, 1,000 rupees. So the benefit has to be long term. The second requirement with respect to an ideal certification is we need to have long-term benefits. We should also have flexibility when we are doing the particular certification. Like we should be able to write the exams whenever we would want to and not on a fixed time because something may crop up which may make it a bit difficult for us to do it. The next one is it must be relevant, which is very, very important because we are talking about upskilling for further growth. So whatever we are doing, if it is not going to be relevant to what we are doing, then it is not going to help us. So it needs to be relevant. The next thing, being typical finance professionals, we would want an early payback. One thing I would want to caution here is we need to be looking at the cost we are incurring for obtaining a certification as always an investment. So we need to be talking about payback. And lastly, and more importantly, the certification, what we are doing has to be globally recognized because we have just seen that there is nothing local today and everything is global. So looking at all this, I'm sure you would agree with major part of what I'm talking about. What are the various certifications that are available with global recognition, short term, and the other benefits we are talking about? We can look at a US certification, probably, or you can look at a UK certification. These are two major countries, like apart from Australia, Canada, but there are very few people who go into this apart from the US or the UK. One thing about the UK certifications is we follow the same curriculum or the examination structure and pattern like the English because they were ruling us earlier. So what happens is, like our exams or our certifications, the UK certifications are multi-level and spans a longer duration as compared to the short-term duration, what we should be ideally looking at. Take ACCA, for example, of the UK. You have about 13 papers, but even with some exemptions, it is a 2-year or a 3-year process. So we need to be clear whether we will be able to sustain the interest for 2 to 3 years and then continue considering our other commitments like the family, work, and other things. So essentially, I'm going to be talking about US certifications which tick all these boxes. I'm just going to give you a brief about what are all the US certifications one can look at in the field of finance and accounting, subject to the ideal scenario we were talking about. The first one I would suggest is the CMA or the Certified Management Accountant of the US. One word of caution here, I'm not going to dwell too much on the course per se. I'm just going to highlight the courses that are available and a very brief on certain aspects with respect to these courses. In case there are any further clarifications you would want, like we can always be in touch for me to throw more light on this. So the Certified Management Accountant of the USA is one very good certification I would recommend. And of course, no certification from the US is complete without the CPA or the Certified Public Accountant, which is nothing but the Chartered Accountancy of the US. The next one is CIA, or the Certified Internal Auditor, which is the only certification for internal audit, which is catching up as a profession across the globe. We also have CISA, or the Certified Information Systems Auditor Program, which is the only systems audit program. Today, everything is done through the systems. As I told you, 10,000 rupees tally you have. So CISA assumes great importance. And the last program, and a very important program, is the Chartered Financial Analyst from the US, again, which is the CFA. Extremely important program, but this is catering to a specific niche. So probably, like people who would want to specialize in that area and then go, that is more suited for them. Now, the next slide, I'm going to just give you an overview, but I would want to draw your attention to only the rows which are highlighted in green. If you look at the rows that are highlighted in green, we are talking about a maximum of 4 papers. So one is, we are not talking about 20 papers, 13 papers, 15 papers like the other UK qualifications or the Indian certification. The CMA has got 2 papers, the CPA 4, CIA has 3, CISA has got 1. The CFA is a multi-level examination wherein it's 3 levels and you have 3 papers. Now, coming to the flexibility box, which I was talking about when I was talking about the ideal certification, CMA exams are held for 6 months in a year, which means you have more number of examination windows to prepare and take up. The CPA is held throughout the year, and so is the CISA and the CIA, which means any working day, you just need to fix up a date with the Prometric Center that is local, because these are all online exams. You fix up a date and then go and take up your exams. You have that much flexibility. And what is the time frame we are talking about? A maximum of 12 to 15 months, considering the background of the individual. 12 to 15 is a very conservative time I've taken, because I'm talking about graduates wanting to get into CPA. They would take so much time subject to their eligibility, but otherwise, all these certifications apart from the CFA, which I had spoken to about, is not going to take more than 1 year. So this is a 100 meters race or a 200 meters race, which we can run as compared to the marathon we are talking about. Now, why am I talking about US certifications specifically? The first and foremost important thing is these qualifications are industry relevant. The very interesting part is when a curriculum is designed for a US program, the people go to the industry experts, talk to them on understanding what are the skill sets that a professional would need, and then they incorporate it in the curriculum. So you are industry ready when you have completed a particular course. And that is the reason why, if you look at the CMA, CISA, CIA, and other courses, the syllabus or the curriculum is changed every 4 years. So this also, goes with the continuous learning process I was talking about. The structure of the exam is that you need to have conceptual understanding. It is not the routine, roting, memorizing and taking up the exams, but it is understanding. A very high level of proficiency is needed. What do we mean by very high level of proficiency? We are talking about a minimum of 75% marks for passing these exams. So you need to have scored at least 75 to pass these exams, but don't get unduly perturbed when I'm talking about such high scores, because 75 in an Indian scenario would be an all India rank we are talking about. The best part is these exams are objective in nature. So it is not a major issue when we are talking about a high level of proficiency. Now coming back, what is the biggest advantage of an objective scenario exams? The biggest advantage or a biggest plus, as I see it, is it enables you think on one's feet. Please remember, an objective scenario, the questions are not going to be what you have already learned, but it is going to be based on those concepts. So in an examination scenario, you will have to think on your feet when you read a question and then answer it, which is exactly what you would be finding it in a corporate scenario. Your boss suddenly calls you up and then wants a clarification. You will have to do it immediately and not tell him, I will come back to you, sir, give me some time, unless it is going to be a bit complicated. Now, what is the biggest drawback when it comes to a objective type of a question is, we Indians specifically are used to being awarded marks for partially right answers, because descriptive scenario, we are talking about answers which are partially right. But we fail to understand partially right would also mean partially wrong. Please understand, we have been awarded marks for wrong answers until today because we have been nurtured in a descriptive scenario. Just imagine a scenario, you are going to a doctor for a surgery and the doctor is supposed to, like after that surgery, give 15 stitches to you. What would be your reaction if the doctor comes out in a typical movie scenario, removes his glasses and then tells our relatives, listen, 15 stitches had to be done. I have done 13 stitches, but the last 2 stitches I have had a problem. So please adjust. Are we going to take that? We definitely are not going to be. That is the similar scenario in a descriptive type of an exam where we expect marks for partially right answers. If we are to call ourselves a professional, we should be 100% right and not, like 80% right, like the doctor example I was talking about. And again, the best part of the US certifications is they are globally recognized. In fact, one better way of how I would say is close your eyes, touch any country in the map and go and take up an employment. That is what a US certification would do for you. Now, what is the benefit you are going to get ultimately? That is what you would be looking at. Like, what I had thought when I had to invest $10,000 way back in 1999. I can sum it up in one sentence, if you can call it. Why should you be crawling when you can fly? You are capable of much better stuff. Why should you be crawling and then moving like a caterpillar when you can metamorphosize and then become a butterfly? The advantages of doing such certifications is your gray matter remains gray. You are still in touch with the subject, which is extremely important. You are not redundant and left behind, because I was mentioning the scenario is where the environment is very dynamic. So it is extremely important that you are not redundant and then you are left behind. Your growth within the company is guaranteed, GUARANTED. And the message you are conveying to employers and prospective employers is, here is somebody who is wanting to continuously upskill himself. So if he's going to come here, he's going to add a lot of value. That is the indirect message you are conveying to your current employer and also your prospective employer. And lastly, it is the opportunities across the globe we are talking about. One thing you will have to remember. Do I have 5 more minutes, please?
Yes.
Brevity has never been my forte. Please bear with me. Just 5 more minutes. Please remember one thing which I had, like specifically spoken about is we are living in a scenario where it is extremely competitive. So with so much competition, we need to understand it is inches that make champions today. The difference between the person coming first and the person coming second is not huge. It is just inches. As we say, the difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary is that little bit extra. we also need to ensure that, like we have their nose in the front, pictorially speaking, so that we are as successful as what we would want to be. Now, all my presentation so far has been focusing on working professionals. I thought, let me also, like have a slide where, like there could be a parent who is wanting to understand what their child must be doing, since they must be either in their class 11 or class 12 and then completing it, and what should be the way forward. So this particular slide generally talks about what should be the way forward for a student in the commerce stream who is going to be completing his class 12. I have always believed that the most important phase in anybody's life is the 5 to 6 years after school. If you have judiciously used that 5 to 6 years, the rest 50 years is, like success guaranteed. So generally I say, like 5 years for the next 50 years, because the average age, the life expectancy today is, we are talking about 75, and we are talking about the phase from 17 to 22 or 23, and then you still have 50 years of career ahead. What would be the recommended option from my perspective? Please understand, this is my personal opinion, but having spent 33 years across the globe and having worked for conglomerates with a turnover of more than 1.3 billion in a day, I feel I'm a bit qualified to talk about this. What is the recommended option? I'm talking about a 5-year option. Now you can think, why am I talking about 5-year options? Today, if you look at it, any good program you're talking about, be it a chartered accountancy, which minimum takes 5 years for completion, or an integrated law program, which is again going to take 5 years, or anything, so that 5-year time frame is firmly entrenched in our mind. So what should the student be doing? A BCom and MCom in distance learning in 5 years. One strong recommendation I would say is, please do not spend 5 years in a college, because like you wouldn't be utilizing the time properly unless you would want to enjoy the college life. What do you do in this 5 years apart from your BCom and MCom? You do your CMA in year 1, which has got a 2 papers only, 2 paper exam. You do your CISA, which is a 1 paper exam in year 3. Let me come to year 2. You might be wondering as to what I'm planning to do. You do your CPA in years 4 and 5, a total of 4 papers. In addition, you can do your internship in years 2 and 3 because you have already completed your CMA. So you can very well go for an internship. And in years 4 and 5, you are a qualified certified management accountant and a certified information systems auditor. So you can go for an employment. So in 5 years, you can complete 5 certifications at 0 cost. Yeah, you have heard me right. I'm talking about 0 cost. So by 22 or 23, you will have 5 certifications that are globally recognized. Close your eyes, touch any country in the map and go and take up an employment is what is distinctly possible. And the best part is, let's say if somebody is wanting to do a chartered accountancy, they would have to pass 20 papers in this 5 years, whereas we are talking about just 7 papers in 5 years with much more recognition. So ideally speaking, a student in class 11 or 12 should be looking at this option because the strain is also relatively less. At the same time, he is able to acquire globally recognized certifications. So, want to stand out in a crowd? You can get in touch with glocalganesh@gmail.com. You might be wondering, is the Gmail address right? Yes, it is Glocal Ganesh, because I was a part of the Sumitomo board I'm talking about. I was in Sumitomo earlier. We used to say the word local and global is going to go out of fashion and it's going to be substituted by glocal. So my mail ID is also reflecting that. Any clarifications you want apart from the Q&A session that is going to follow, you can always reach out to me in this Gmail. Thank you so much for your patient listening. It was an absolute pleasure. The floor is open for the question answer session. Thank you once again.
The pleasure is all ours, Ganeshji. Could you please stop screen sharing? Yeah, thank you so much. For sure, that was a super duper helpful speech by Toastmaster Ganesh. Apart from accounting and finance, I picked up nuggets of wisdom on success, competition, how we've become slaves to AI, and on how the US certifications and so much more. I'd say my Saturday morning was well spent. Thank you, Ganeshji. If anyone would like to ask questions to our guest speaker, please feel free to do so. We have 5 minutes for that.
Mr. Rajiv Dubey is there.
Yes, Mr. Rajiv, Toastmaster Rajiv, please
Hello.
go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning, sir. It's really very eye-opener, excellent session today, and it's very knowledge, and it gives the idea for our new children also how you can make planning. Basically, I am chartered accountant, and I have done CISA also, and just undergoing CIA also, a challenge exam. Last attempt I failed in the border itself, so now next I am planning. So my question was, I want to do CPA, so if possible, how I can do this one? Any advantage, and what is the requirement for that?
Being a chartered accountant, I presume that you must also be a BCom graduate, Mr. Rajiv. So, like you would be.
Yeah, I have master also.
Okay, masters, that is even better. That is even better.
Yeah.
So your eligibility has been taken care of. So, like there are multiple academies that conduct online classes for the CPA. So you can, like possibly those primarily are weekend classes, which you can attend and then take benefit. If you want more details, possibly, like you could mail me what your exact requirement and we can touch base and I can throw more light on that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mohammed.
Yeah, this is Mohammed Mateen. Hi, Ganesh. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, Mateen. Oh, good to see you, man.
Hey, sorry I was a little late, but I just thought I should join in and hear those great words of wisdom. Fantastic.
You are on mute, Mateen. Mateen, you are on mute.
Okay, unmuted?
Yeah, now it's fine.
Okay, so what exactly did you mean by those zero investment in those 4 or 5 years?
No, the point is, whatever money you would be spending, you would be earning in your internship and then you are working. So, like the cost and the expenditure, the cost and the revenue will match. So you would not be spending anything from your pocket in that 5 years.
Okay.
So ultimately, the outflow from a parent perspective is zero because earn while you learn concept is what we are talking about. So you'll be earning while you are learning. So the parent is not put under pressure.
Yeah, but Ganesh, see, one more thing is you should also highlight this particular pandemic situation. You're talking about, say, going through all these things and then clearly getting easily an overseas job and things like that. But in today's pandemic world, it is not as simple as that.
Mateen, let me clarify. Whatever I have spoken about is with online options, and whichever country you want, the certifications I was talking about is recognized and you can take up a job there. And secondly, pandemic is not going to be a permanent thing, like let us all hope and pray that it's not permanent.
Absolutely.
So two things. One is we have online options for everything. And the country where you are coming from, these qualifications and certifications would be recognized. So you can take up an employment unless you would want to move for greener pastures. Like today, Canada, Australia, a lot of people are migrating. And if you are wanting to go to these countries with such qualifications, you go, the struggle would be much, much, much lower and you can settle down much faster and then take off further. It will all depend on the individual. So, but I'm just trying to give as much general information as possible. That is what it is.
Thanks, Da. Thanks.
Right.
Thank you, sir. Yes, our time manager, Jiju Thomas. Yes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Tasrina. And Ganesh sir, I just want to say word of appreciation that, my thinking was finance sector is a cost center, because I am a chief operating officer in an insurance sector.
Okay.
And this is a wonderful experience for me. In fact, my daughter, she's now going for a BR. Actually, she want to move to finance actually. But I told, in finance, you will be stuck in a finance manager. You cannot be a head of a company. But recently, I can share my experience here in 2 insurance companies. One is Oman United, another one is RSA, that is both insurance companies, the CEOs are from finance. CFO has become the CEO. So this is what happening in the industry now.
And you are also talking to one. I was also heading multi-continental operations, and then I moved out of finance. Today,
exactly.
Finance people have great opportunities in heading organizations. So, you need to be looking at that option.
So thank you, sir. To felicitate our guest speaker, Toastmaster Ganesh, with a certificate of appreciation, I hereby call upon our district PR manager, DTM Saiju Victor.
Thank you, Taslina. And thank you, Ganesh sir, for that information, because I am a BCom graduate, but after BCom, I never knew what to do. Then I went in a different directions. But today you gave the right direction, the right path to so many people, and you have given them options to upskill themselves and go for global qualifications. And that was an eye-opening session. And here we thank you all on behalf of the entire District 105 team, and we please accept a token of our appreciation, a certificate from District 105 signed by our district director, who is the birthday boy of the day. Thank you, Ganesh ji. And it was a wonderful
Saiju, just 10 seconds.
Yes, please.
Happy birthday wishes to Mr. Gurbinder Singh. And thank you so much for the opportunity, District 105 and others who are connected with it. It's been a truly humbling experience, sharing whatever little I knew about it. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And Taslina, the stage is yours. The screen is yours.
Thank you, DTM Saiju Victor. And thanks once again, DTM Toastmaster Ganesh Vaideeswaran. From cybersecurity to accounting to the importance of upskilling, we listeners have had plenty to take away from this program. It was just wow. Let us thank the team who has been working behind the stage to make sure that the program runs smooth and is a stupendous success as it has been. The entire CGD and PR team of District 105 deserves applause for organizing, marketing, and publicizing this event. We had a dedicated events team for the special upskilling event. The district team members who worked for this project are DTM Jamil Shakil, who is the Club Growth Director of District 105, DTM Saiju Victor, the Public Relations Manager of District 105, and DTM Shuchita Udas, Logistic Manager of District 105. The Zoom managers are DTM Navneeta Krishnan, Toastmaster Avuday Nayagam, and Toastmaster Vinesh Matthew. The time managers are Toastmaster Palani Kumar and Toastmaster Jijo Thomas. Your MCs for the days were yours truly, Toastmaster Taslina Moidu and Toastmaster Samar, our backup MC. Special thanks to all our listeners for your active participation, especially on a Saturday morning. This is your MC for the day, signing off. Take care, stay safe, and have a good day.